You can call me stupid, you can call me cheap, you can say I'm lazy, you can say I'm weak. You think that using her would get to me, and if you're right then you're in trouble, D. 'Cause I won't break, no I know I won't wait. You're in trouble, D.
What's up, everybody? We are live, and we have the man with us tonight. We have Oldbear. Just like I said the other night, it's going to be a good show. Bring your questions. If you want more answers, this is the place to be. Oldbear, good evening, buddy. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How about you, bud?
Doing great. We weathered the storm with that front. It's pushed on. I'm ready to get tonight going, and everybody, welcome to this is Bigfoot Saturday tonight. Bigfoot Saturday. If y'all don't know, Oldbear does have a Discord channel. I tell you what, very well worth the listen. A lot of good content. Also, his YouTube channel. If you don't know, go to Oldbear's Den on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share. Much content, and all of it is very awesome. So tonight, Oldbear, I'd like to I know I interviewed you a while back, and we got into a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff we didn't get real heavy into was the Gugways and the Janosquas, and that's just some of the Bigfoots you don't really hear much about. The Janosquas, if you try to research it, there's not a whole lot of literature on it. And I know you know a lot about the Janosqua, which is primarily the most aggressive Bigfoot out there.
Yeah, it's super aggressive. They actively hunt. They actively eat meat, anything that's meat. And I hate to say this, but us as humans are meat.
Right.
If they see you in the woods, anywhere they're roving through, or and they don't care if you got a gun, and usually there's not just one. They hunt in packs.
Right. I know Janosqua comes down from Iroquois legend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if y'all don't know, they have a term called Akniyarhe, which means stone giant. Can you elaborate on how they got that name?
They dealt with a clan of Bigfoot that were, back then the only thing they had was bows. And the Bigfoot are pretty smart. I mean, they think on our level. So they figured out that if they rolled around in mud and little rocks and sticks and leaves and all this stuff, got all that matted up into the hair across their chest, their their neck and their head and legs and everything, they figured out that it would harden up after it would dry out. It would be as hard as a stone.
Right.
And the arrows, the bows they had, are not like the compound bows we have today. Where you can set them up to anywhere from 100 pounds, down to 40 or 50 pounds on draw weight.
Right.
And that's like the bow that I use. I can turn it up to 100-pound draw. And, a 100-pound draw is going to send an arrow down downrange at a very fast speed.
Yeah.
And if you use a heavy arrow, it'll penetrate, through something like that. But the
Hmm.
bows back then didn't do that,
Right.
and they had to arc them up to shoot them and hope that they hit something, hit a vital area. And they worked great on other Indian tribes in North America at the time. But when it came to these Bigfoot and then them rolling around in that mud and all those rocks in their hair and leaves and twigs and all that stuff that rolled in their hair, it didn't penetrate no more.
Right.
And
Right.
that's how come they were called the stone giants, because it was like hitting a piece of stone.
Right. And these Janasquas, there is inbreeding going on. You and I both talked about that a few months
Yeah.
back. Is this primarily why they are aggressive? Is it the constant? Because I know when we talked, it was they inbreed within their clan. Is that right?
Yes. There's still an alpha in the clan,
Right.
and there's an alpha female. But what it is they're not like most regular Bigfoot, type 1, 2s, or 3s.
Right.
They'll intermingle with other clans, and when they intermingle, they'll exchange, females and younger females and younger males, not the juveniles, but the young adults.
Right.
And these Bigfoot, they don't. They eat their own kind. And if they run into another clan, and there's 6, 7, 8 of them, the Janasqua, they can run through a clan of 15 or 20 Bigfoot and kill them all.
Right.
Because they're so big and so powerful. Even the female Janasqua is a formidable opponent for an adult male. Not the alpha, but just another adult male.
Right. And these Bigfoots, I know a lot of the viewers here probably don't know much on the Janasqua or maybe even never heard of it. Can you give us a size comparison for a Janasqua to your type 1, 2, or 3?
The biggest Janasqua that I know of, and the ones that I've dealt with, were in the 12 to 14 foot range. Tall.
Good night.
5, 6 foot across the chest. Probably weighing in over 1,200 pounds. Your typical male Bigfoot in a 1, 2, or 3 is going to be in the 8 to maybe 9, 10 foot range.
Mm-hmm.
And weighing around, once they get to the 10 foot range, they probably weigh around 1,000 pounds. So roughly 100 pounds per foot.
Right.
But when it comes to these Janasqua, that measurement's out the door.
Yeah. Wow. That's huge. Because your 1, 2s, and 3s are not quite as big. Your Gugways, I don't think they're quite that big either.
Well, Gugways, they get pretty big too, because they'll hunt humans.
Right. So could that be attributed to all the protein they eat?
Well, it can be contributed to the way that they develop a taste for human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be just a normal male Bigfoot or normal female Bigfoot, and they happen to be hungry or kicked out of a clan. They don't have that support system. And what happens is they take the first opportunity to kill something to fill their belly.
Right.
And if it's a human being, people say we taste like pork. And they develop a taste for us. And if they're very opportunistic when it comes to a Gugway. If they got a chance to keep from being harmed and kill you, that's what they'll do.
After talking with you that last time, that these Bigfoots are pretty dangerous. Like you said, if you run across one in the woods, you play your cards right, you may get out of there, but that's a slim chance, y'all. These gugways, like I've told y'all on B show, they are nothing to play with.
No.
They are very aggressive. They are inbred, which probably attributes to aggression.
Yes.
And they are very smart. You know, even though the fact that they are inbred, these Bigfoot are very smart. They do have structure within the clan. Can you give us a little info on that, Bear, about the structure they have within the clan?
Well, you always have an alpha.
Mm-hmm.
You always have the alpha male. And everything a clan does is on his shoulders. Whether it's type 1, type 2, or type 3, even a type, the Gugway and the type 5, the Genospora, there's always that one big male that has battled all the other males in the clan and any and all comers from outside the clan. And they've always won. They're the biggest and strongest. And then you have his mate, which
Mm-hmm.
is an alpha female. All the females answer to her. But everybody, including the alpha female, answers to that alpha male. And he designates what male is going to be hunting, what male is going to be gathering, or what the females are going to be doing. And when it comes to the Gugway and Genospora, those clans of them are, they're super predator. And they, that alpha male says, you go kill this, and they're not allowed to do anything unless he authorizes it. It might be a sound from him. It might be a scream. It might be him balling up his supersized hand and punching a tree to give a wood knock, and them reacting from that sound that he's given.
Right. So it's like a military type structure, more or less. Like there's a chain of command within that clan.
Right.
Yeah. That's that's a lot of information that not a lot of people really know. I mean, you can talk to all these researchers, and there's still not a lot of hardcore evidence like that they can tell you. Like I've told everybody, you always get a mention every time I do a show, because a lot of the Bigfoot knowledge that I have gathered within the last 6 months has come from talking to you. And it's just, I've gotten more answers than I've had questions. And that's what I try to tell everybody. You've given me a lot of answers on the questions I've had. It's not like, well, it's, we really don't know. There's not a lot of info on them, but there is a lot of info. It's just who's going out into the trenches and who knows. And that's what I try to stress to everybody, that you've been out in the trenches with these Bigfoots. And it's just amazing the information that you have come up with and brought back to us. It's really a blessing.
Yeah. Well, I've been very lucky. Anytime I've ran into a Gugway or Genospora, I've always been lucky enough to see them before they see me.
Right.
And the times that I've had to deal with a Genospora that are facing me and know that I'm there, there's not been very many of them. It's been 3, 4, or 5, and there's not a female around, because the females are super sneaky.
Yeah.
They'll get behind you while you're concentrating on those males, and they'll sneak up behind you and rip your head off. And that's just plain simple. They are, I wouldn't call them a ninja. It'd be like dealing with a Green Beret that became a Navy SEAL.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about the way the females are. They will do everything in their power to get behind you and then come up behind you while your attention is on the males.
Yeah. And you know that question came up last week, and it's going to kind of roll into what I'm fixing to say. So the question had came up, or it actually wasn't a question; it was a statement saying that you cannot kill a Bigfoot. And of course, you and I both know that's far from the truth. But what I did elaborate to them, and just what you had brought up, just hits that on the head 100%. If you kill a Bigfoot, you're not going to come out with that body, especially if it's a claned Bigfoot. You're not going to come out with that body. There's just really no way.
It would be super tough if, and here's the thing. The thing of it is, when it comes to a type 1, 2, or 3, they have a hierarchy. Now, they don't want to interact with you. They don't want to have trouble with you. They will turn and leave and run.
Right.
If at all possible. They don't want to come up and shake your hand and pat you on top of the head or anything like that. They may show themselves to you, but they're doing it because they're trying to get you to leave.
Right.
But if you are faced with a Bigfoot and that Bigfoot starts working itself into a lather, and by that I mean pounding its fists on the ground, growling at you, flailing its arms around, trying to make itself look bigger. It may pound its chest. And I've seen Bigfoot do this and work themselves up. And 9 times out of 10, that Bigfoot's going to charge you, but it's not going to charge you to kill you. It's going to charge you to scare the living crap out of you, right, and make you wet yourself and turn and run like a little chicken. That's what they want. But you always got that chance of one that's going to come up and start something right off the bat, come running at you and try to do something to you. Throw rocks and hit you hard. They may push a tree down on top of you. And I've had a Bigfoot do that before. And I've had a Bigfoot that pushed a tree over on me. And it was part of the Yahoo clan here in West Virginia. And it was because I got too close.
Right.
They were just trying to get me out of the area. But the ones that just want to, have a confrontation with you and do harm to you, those are the ones that the alpha will know that one is doing something. And they have this, the hierarchy. They look at it like, all right, he started it and this human finished it. He won. Okay. He didn't provoke this Bigfoot. He didn't cause the situation. This other Bigfoot did. And they'll let you leave. But they're not going to let you leave that body. That's just something they will not do.
Right.
If there's 10 of you and you get this, one of you shoot a Bigfoot and it drops within sight and, everybody's got a gun and everybody's ready to throw ropes on this thing and drag it out, they're not going to let you get that body out.
Right.
They may not kill you, but they're going to harm you to the point where you're unable to keep pulling on a rope to get this 5, 6, 7, 800-pound Bigfoot out. Even though he started it all and you finished it, there's no way you're going to get out of there with it because they're going to come and take that body.
Right.
because he just will not let that happen. It's part of their it's part of their the same as the military does nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
We don't leave a man behind.
Right.
We don't want to leave any of our fallen soldiers behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with them.
Right.
They have ways that they bury their dead. They have a religious thing. You can call it a religion. They're very religious about how they bury their dead, and they're just not going to let you take them out.
Right. Right. I remember you telling an encounter at one time where some Bigfoot were coming around a property, and someone actually fired a shot and dropped one, and the alpha came out and picked up the body.
Yeah.
And that's a prime example that,
Well, what happened was in that one there was a alpha and the biggest one of his young males, the young male.
mm-hmm.
It was his child that was fully grown, but it's still a young male.
Right.
And they were pleasuring themselves watching women, the wife and daughter, in the window at night, and they were pleasuring themselves. And the man was home. He came home for the weekend because he's a truck driver like I am.
Mm-hmm.
And he was gone. And when he got home, the alpha come out and started, watching his wife. And she didn't walk around in front of the window. They had a huge set of French doors from their off their bedroom that went out on a balcony. And she would get dressed and everything in the bathroom that was attached to their bedroom. But when she would come out, it would be out there watching her, and it was doing its thing. And the husband was home, and it charged the husband there on the back porch, and he jumped up and went inside the back door, and had a very high caliber rifle there, and he shot that one.
Yeah.
And then the other male that came out demonstrating, taking a tree limb, pounded on the ground and making all kinds of noise, and it finally worked itself up to where it charged him, and when it charged him, he shot it and killed it. And the alpha female, along with the other beta male that was in that small family unit, they come out and drug both of them off.
Right.
And he went out in the yard to check and make sure that big male was dead, and that's when they come out and ran him back inside. Didn't charge him, but two of them at once is a daunting affair. And he left and went. He went back inside, and they drugged both males off and did whatever they do with the other.
Yeah, that's definitely enough to drive you back in the house. You got two either coming towards you or bluff charging you or whatever they're going to do, pounding a tree. Yeah, that's definitely enough to drive you back in the house. Was there any idea on which type of Bigfoot those were?
They were a type 2, which is the ones that look like what scientists say with a Cro-Magnon man.
Mm-hmm.
And because they have a very heavy brow ridge, they got very big, facial structures.
Right.
And they look somewhat human, but they look somewhat apish. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most definitely. So yeah, that's definitely proof to show everybody that, they, for one, that there's always been question, if Bigfoot bury their bodies and where they bury their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've told a few people you're not just gonna go stumble in any set of woods and just come across a burial ground
No,
for Bigfoot. You're not.
you're not going to find a body.
No,
They just won't let that happen.
no.
I mean, they may take and do as the North American Indian did, and burn that body, ceremonially burn the bodies or whatever. Uh, or they may just take and bury them in a cave somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've actually heard of, and you've mentioned this to me too, of Bigfoot's actually inhabiting a lot of cave systems within the United
Yeah,
States. And for those of you that don't know, there in Kentucky, the Mammoth Caves is one of the largest system of caves in the United States.
yeah,
And there's probably, I want to say maybe 98% of that, maybe 90, just exaggerated, that haven't even been researched or people even gone in. That there's just no way to get that far down into that cave system. For one,
yeah,
it's so dark. For two, there's no navigation into it. There's no way to get into it. Even with a flashlight, it's gonna be pitch dark.
yeah.
And it's, these things are intelligent. They know how to hide. They're king of hide and seek per se. But I've actually heard, and what you've told me, that there's a possibility that these bodies could be in these cave systems, and that's why people can't just go out and stumble across a body or a mound of dirt, which could be a burial ground. It's just to per se, but it's to me it's far fetched to find a dead body, in my opinion. You would have to travel probably miles within miles in these cave systems. There's just no way that we could do it.
Well, yeah. The other problem with going inside of caves, you always have, methane gas
Mm-hmm.
and other types of gases that are in those cave systems, and you'd have to carry an oxygen supply,
Mm-hmm.
and most oxygen tanks only give you an hour,
Yeah.
and that would mean you'd have to carry 4 or 5 of those tanks with you at all times.
Yeah. And those tanks, y'all, I was a firefighter, and those tanks, those SCBA tanks, which will give you, if you breathe normal, about 25 minutes of air. Those things on your back, they're pretty heavy. They are pretty heavy, and just moving around with it 15, 20 minutes fighting the fire, you get pretty worn out. You get pretty tired. Um, One of my administrators had a question, and it's actually a pretty good one. And this is something that probably everybody should know. What do you do if you accidentally come up on a Bigfoot?
Well, the first thing you want to do, you want to make sure it's not a Gugway or Janosper.
Right.
A Janosper is going to have and to put it simply, it's going to, if you've watched uh, any kind of movies uh, at all, anything that would look like a demon that Hollywood has portrayed,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to mess with it. You want to leave the area automatically. You want to go back out the exact same way that you came in and get out of there. Get back to your vehicle, get in your vehicle, and leave. Don't play around. Don't mess around with them. Don't take that chance. A Gugway, they have battle scars on them also, on their face, but they typically carry meat with them whenever they're walking around. They'll carry a deer's leg or an elk leg and be chewing on it because they have, the type of teeth that are made for shredding meat.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 types that I know of, if they notice you, or if they don't hear you, the best thing to do is step beside a tree, remain motionless, and let them just walk away. If they're walking away, or if they're foraging for food or looking for something, just let them go on about their business. Don't interfere. If they notice you and see you, don't tower. Stand erect. Stand at your full height. Don't let them intimidate you, because the moment you intimidate them, that you get intimidated, that running mechanism we have in all of us is going to kick in. At that point, they're going to make a choice: either your dinner, or they successfully got you to leave the area. And they may choose to chase you or follow you. They won't be right at your heels, but they may be off to your left or right and stay parallel with you until you get out of the woods and get back to your vehicle. So if that happens, just use your head. If they don't know you're there, don't make a lot of noise. Don't make any noise. Stand motionless and try to, stay hidden from them, because you don't want to take the chance of one of them being a Gugway or a Janoskwa and you not see their face, and it being a Gugway or a Janoskwa. If it's one of them, you're going to have to fight.
Yeah.
And you don't really have a whole big of a chance to win against one of them.
Even with a rifle, right?
Your sound went nuts again, Lieutenant. LT?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, your sound's bad, or else mine went nuts.
Okay, stand by.
There you are.
All right. So, so even if you have to defend yourself with a Janoskwa, with a Gugway Type 4 and Type 5, even with a rifle, it's still a slim chance that you're going to get out, right?
I wouldn't give you no more than about 10%.
There you go. And these Bigfoots, they do, especially the clans, where there's one, there's more. Same as people say with dogmen. If you see one in front of you, you can bet to the left, to the right, maybe behind you, there's going to be another one. Proof's in the pudding. I seen that with my ex-partner out of Kentucky. He sent me video on that. That's true. Where there's one, there's another. That's most definitely true. Same with the Bigfoot. These clan Bigfoots, they're really tight knit. Every now and then you do get a rogue, and I know you and I talked about these rogues. And a lot of times these rogues are ones that have defied the alpha, right?
Yeah.
And the ones that defy the alpha, and what Bear and I have talked about before, y'all, it's like a military type structure within these clans. Like you said, you got to answer to the alpha, and if you do something against that alpha, they're going to have to fight that alpha, and if that beta wins, then they're the new alpha.
Yeah.
If they don't, then they're out of that clan. And that's just what I've heard from Bear, what he's told me the first time I interviewed him, and it's stuff like that sticks. And there's not a lot of answers to that from anyone. So I know back in, what was it? Was it? Oh yeah, it was August. You went to the Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
And I remember what you had sent a message to me, and that's when you had wanted me to come up to the TTWV Squatch Out.
Right.
I was gonna go because I was going to Kentucky that week, and the hurricane hit down here, and of course I got deployed to Louisiana, wasn't able to go. But I remember you saying that you were going to the Daniel Boone to take care of a Gugway problem. Can you elaborate on that?
Gugway, yeah.
Possible Gugway. Any luck out there? You get any kind of?
Well, the funny thing about when we went down, we're going to go down to that area. It was another investigator out of Kentucky that had contacted me, and I've known him for probably about 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having trouble with these Bigfoot. And the way he described this Bigfoot, the ones that he had seen, they had sharp teeth. And they were decimating the deer population down there. And the coyotes were disappearing left and right. And they were having trouble with, these Bigfoot. They were just eating anything that was meat.
Right.
And they had trouble with them going into a campground down there, and people were being run off, and because they were chasing them, right on their heels,
Right.
chasing them out of there. So I was going to go down, and the week that we were going to go down, he contacted me and said, "Hey," he said, "issue solved. Don't ask how, but it's taken care of." So I kind of know what he meant by it. So that tells me that they either had one of them either got really aggressive and somebody put a bunch of lead in it, or they found a way to get them to leave, either by running them out by using a type of some type of explosive, or maybe they used you can poison these things, but you don't want to do that because it takes so long for poison to work on a Bigfoot because they're so big.
Right.
And but they got the problem solved, and I didn't have to run down there and stick my nose in it and take a chance of my nose getting cut off like my face.
Most definitely, yeah. Yeah, I've actually heard from my ex-partner. He would go into the Daniel Boone a lot. Of course, he was chasing Dogman, and they got some really, really, really good evidence. One of the videos they got, and this was Kirk Stokes. He called it Bigfoot Watching Me, but it's I'm not going to say it's debatable, but I mean it could be. But to me, the way the ear is and the way it looks, it could be a Dogman. But they both told me when you go into parts of the Daniel Boone, there is just like no wildlife at all.
Yeah.
Like you'd be lucky to see a squirrel. Every great now and then you might see a deer. But he said there's like no wildlife at all. When you walk in there, the presence just feels like heavy. It's very, very quiet all the time. And it just like there's nothing moving.
Right.
And, when I was helping them with their documentary, I was, getting all this information from them and asking them, if there's nothing in there to eat, there's no wildlife, how are these dogmen or these Bigfoot in there surviving? What are they eating?
Well, they're going to people's homes, getting in their trash. They'll go to people's houses and I know nobody wants to hear this, but your pet cat that you put out at night just became a Scooby snack for a Bigfoot, or your dog that stays out and lays out on the front porch at night. That dog's not going to know what to do. It may try to run off, but there's more than just one Bigfoot there.
Right.
And they can run a dog down. They can run a deer down.
Oh yeah.
So, they're gonna catch it, and it's gonna become a Scooby snack.
Yeah. And it was like J.C. Johnson used to say, "Show me the calories," And I believe that if they decimate an area full of wildlife, they're gonna move to the next and to the next and to the next. I know Bigfoot are real territorial. I don't see the Dogman that way, but I know Bigfoot try to stay territorial, and which is going to bring me to my question: if they do decimate wildlife in an area, will that clan move to another area?
Yes.
That's what I kind of figured.
Well, but here's the thing, though. The clans that are type 1, 2, or 3, they're a conservationist.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is they don't kill everything in there.
Right.
They can survive on, grubs and plant life, and they'll catch a deer and they'll stretch it out, and it'll last them a long time. But you get dealing with a Gugway or Janoskwa type clan that moves into an area and they decimate the deer population. And, they're going to catch everything that's meat: squirrels, rabbits, turkeys, deer, possums, skunks. Everything that moves on 4 feet is food to them.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that walks on 2 feet is food to them. So anytime that they're in an area, and if you start seeing deer numbers going down, you need to be aware. Because then your dog and cat and your pet goat and your pet sheep and your cows and chickens and all that stuff's going to start disappearing too. And they'll disappear fast. So if that starts happening, look into buying a new place 100 miles or more away.
Right. That's real interesting, and I'm gonna throw a little something at you. At the beginning of archery season, actually the first day of archery season, I went up and I hunted on my property, and this was evening time. Had a doe come out. It was about 30 yards. Hit it right behind the shoulder, and you actually seen the picture. Remember I showed it the blood. So after I shot, that deer took off, went into the woods. I knew exactly where she went because I watched her for a minute. So I had to go. It was already getting dark. I had to go back to my truck and get my rifle because all I had was my bow, and I wasn't going to walk in there with my bow after dark. So I went and got my rifle, and I came back. I went through the same trails, found the blood, started tracking it. I walked maybe 150 yards, and that's when I found that pool of blood that I showed you on Facebook. And I searched for about an hour and a half after dark, and I found that pool. And after that, nothing, just absolutely nothing. No ground disturbance. I mean, no other blood, nothing. I searched and I searched and I searched and could not find this doe. And it looked like almost where that blood was is either she stopped or laid down because the ground looked a little disturbed right there where the blood was. And after that, just completely nothing. Everything went cold, went silent, went dead, just no deer. And after that, heard an owl pop off. And then I heard something else pop off that sounded like an owl, but was at a different frequency. And then I started hearing what sounded like chatter. And so I was like, all right, that's my cue. I'm going to go on and get out of here. It's already after dark, so I backed on out. I never found that deer. In your opinion, do you think possibly that deer could have been taken?
I don't think it's a possibility. I'm pretty sure that it probably was picked up. I mean, they have wonderful smell. I mean, they can smell just like a bear does. A bear can smell blood from 2 or 3 miles away, easy. And if they smell one, if they can get on the track of that deer before you do,
yeah,
the time that it took you to go back to your truck and then come back and then start tracking that deer, that's more than enough time for a Bigfoot to find where that deer's laying, almost dead, run in, grab it, break its neck, finish killing it, pick it up, throw it across the shoulder, and walk away.
Right. And see, the funny part about that, about not quite a week later, I went on a morning hunt. Same thing. Doe come out, drew back, hit her, I think the arrow actually went through her because I had my bow set at like 75-pound draw. So it was whipping it down. And I think the arrow went through her. It stuck into a tree. She went the game trail, and then right down the game trail, there's a creek. I could hear her rolling down. I know I nailed her. I know it was a money shot. I heard her rolling. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit here just a minute. That way I don't spook her and have her trying to run even further. So I sat in there probably about 3-4 minutes, got down, and I went to tracking, found some blood, tracked it across the creek. I don't never go across the creek. That's where I've caught them pictures of dogmen. So I figured in daytime I'd be all right. Went across the creek, searched an hour and a half, never found it. Never found it.
And you never found any more blood once you crossed the creek, or?
I found some blood, little droplets once it crossed the creek, but you could see where I was tracking to where she was going. She went down the creek, and you could see the ground disturbed where she was either walking or trotting, and it made like a kind of made like an arch to the left because the on the other side of the creek the ground kind of goes up, and I've always heard that if a wounded animal it gets wounded really good, they're not going to go uphill. So and it proved to be true because it arched like that. So I tracked it as far as I could until I couldn't find nothing else, and then it's like the disturbance of the ground just stopped and nothing, no blood, no nothing.
Yeah. So that part of a deer won't go uphill is an old wives' tale. I've shot deer with my bow, and at 30 yards, broadside shot right through the heart, blood be pouring out of the deer on both sides. And I shot a 6-point with my bow here a couple of years ago. It ran up into the Ridge Road, which is from where I shot it was probably 50 yards uphill. Ran out the road and then turned and went to go over the hill, and that's where I found the deer because I heard it crash. It was within 100 yards of my tree stand where it died, but they will go uphill. And that was a heart shot because when I opened it up, I pulled the heart out and it was in, it had the broadhead all the way through the heart itself, right in the very center of the heart. But they will run uphill. But it sounds to me like when you shot that deer, you got probably a double lung hit and maybe clipped the heart. And whatever was close by that day smelt that deer's blood, and then that 2 or 3 minute wait that you sat in the tree and then climbed down, that's 5 minutes. 5 minutes a deer can travel, on his death run, they might travel 50, 100 yards.
Yeah.
And 100 yards is out of your sight distance in the woods.
Yep.
And either a Bigfoot or a dog man may have came over and just grabbed it up and went up in a tree with it, because Bigfoot can climb a tree like, just like a monkey.
Yeah.
So, if they're sitting up in a tree watching you, it can come down that tree and pick that deer up and go right back up in the tree with it.
Yeah. And I kind of think that's what happened with the first one, because I talked to Scott Pace. It was that next night. Him and I talk all the time, and I told him, man, I nailed one. I tracked it. I couldn't find it. He goes, "Did you look up?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't look up. I did not look up." And I got a good habit of looking up. I didn't that night, so may have been above me. Who knows? But
that's a very good possibility.
Yeah, and I know for sure that I do have Bigfoot and dogmen on that property. I've seen them with my eyes. I caught the Bigfoot I caught on a picture, just plain as day, brow ridge and all. He's just squatted down looking at me. And the dogman I've actually seen with my eyes and seen them move. So I know they're out there. It's just, dang,
Yeah.
I lost 2 deer like that, and it's just, I mean,
Hey, don't feel bad. I shot a deer there in Ohio when I lived up near in Columbus. It ran 40 yards and I could see it fall.
Mhm.
And when it fell, it rolled down a little bit of a bank, and that put it right next to the brush that was in that in that little hollow. And I waited 5-10 minutes, and I'm not going to wait. I saw this deer fall,
Right.
so I started walking down there to it. When I got down there, there was a huge pool of blood laying there, but no deer. I
Wow.
never heard that deer get up and run off, or never heard a sound come from the deer. So there had to have been a Bigfoot in that area, because that area is known for Bigfoot.
Mhm.
And there was a Bigfoot in there, and it just saw the deer drop and come over and took the deer I just shot. So it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, it does, and if that is the case, at least I know it didn't go to waste. I think I'd feel a lot worse if I knew that deer went to waste, but if that's what happened, then I don't actually feel bad about it. But another thing I wanted to talk about, and this has been a topic that everyone has asked about the last few months, and I've never got to talk to you about this, but the subject of cloaking has come up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Pace sent me a picture that he got off a video that he took, and I honestly can't tell you what it is. Whatever it is, it's massive, but it's right in front of him. It looks like the shimmer type. Um, the ones that I have seen that are supposedly cloaked actually just blend with the foliage, and I've never really talked to anybody about cloaking. I've just mainly researched it. I've seen a
Mm-hmm.
documentary that kind of gives good insight on why these creatures are so well hidden in the foliage. But I wanted to ask you about cloaking. What do you think is going on with that? Can Bigfoot cloak, and the possibility of them doing it?
Well, when it comes to the issue of cloaking, most people don't know the makeup of a Bigfoot's hair. Now, I've seen Bigfoot up close and personal,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of some situations that I was put in, um, not by my doing, but by theirs. Um, and their hair has a, it's not a layer of hair that is clear, but there are clear hairs on their body that help them blend in. And when it comes to the issue of cloaking, I've never, in 30 years of chasing these things around the mountains of 5 or 6 different states, I have never seen one cloak. Um, and typically, what they do is a Bigfoot can walk through the woods, and you are you walk up on this Bigfoot, and it knows that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
A Bigfoot will do two things. If it's walking, it'll walk, and you blink, it'll stop behind a tree or behind brush and stand rock still. Now, a human's eyesight is based upon movement.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're not in the woods 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we don't know where each leaf on a tree is. We don't know where every little limb is. We don't know how that bush, a bush or brush or briars or whatever, they grow up, and we typically think of them as growing straight up, but they all don't. They
Mm-hmm.
grow in different ways and intertwine with other things in the woods. And if a Bigfoot stops dead, and stops behind a tree and is partially hidden by a tree, your eyesight, unless you train yourself to pick up the form of a deer, and hunters do this all the time. We have to know, we have to see that deer's ear before the deer sees us,
Right.
or before it hears us. Well, Bigfoot is very adept at standing there for long periods of time, and you're not even noticing it breathing. They breathe real shallow when they're alerted to your presence. They'll stop, stand still, and breathe real shallow. They don't have that uh, uh, sound to them at all times. That's only when they're chasing something. You hear the labored breathing and everything like that. But they'll stand rock still. And I've actually been out with other guys when I was younger, and the guy that taught me about how to find Bigfoot and how to, figure out where they are, he showed me a trick that I'm going to be doing with KG here this spring. And we're going to go to areas that I've typically found Bigfoot, and we're going to get them on video. If they're still there and we can catch them out in the daytime, they're going to be on video, and it's going to be out there for everybody to see.
Awesome.
So the trick is I've seen a Bigfoot watch a buddy of mine and then move around the tree and keep mostly hidden, or just keep one eye out. You can only see one eye.
Right.
So they are very adept at keeping hidden from our movement-oriented eyes. And if they don't move, we don't see them. And, I've had hunters, guys that are excellent whitetail hunters, bear hunters, elk hunters. They'll tell you, yeah, I have to see movement from a game animal before it sees me. Because even a whitetail deer can pick you out. Even if you're in the top of the line camo, you've got your blind brushed in, where you're sitting, it's brushed in. We constantly move. And they pick up on that movement, and they pick up on that strange object, us, sitting there in a blind.
Right.
And Bigfoot's the same way. They can pick up on, and that's why a lot of people say, well, there's no Bigfoot out there. All the game cams that hunters have, and we never got great pictures of them on a game cam, is because they can see well enough at night to know that there's a game cam attached to a tree. And 9 times out of 10, whenever that hunter put that game cam up, that Bigfoot was sitting there within distance, a certain distance of him, watching him put it on the tree.
Absolutely.
So whenever somebody says, well, they cloak, it's because the Bigfoot stopped. And the way their hair is designed and the way they know not to move, because we are movement oriented. And as long as they're not making a very big movement, like throwing an arm up or leaning their head out from one side of the tree or the other, we're not going to see them. They can stop in open forest and blend right in.
Right. I actually seen a documentary, and it was put out by Mark Zaski, and they did a I guess like a trial test with a Sasquatch Bigfoot hair and put it under a microscope. And when they pulled, as I'm watching this, I'm just mind blown, because it kind of makes sense. As they pull light away from this hair, it shows under the microscope that this hair turns these different hues of green. And then when they put the light back to it, it turns the natural hair color of the Sasquatch, which kind of makes sense as you're seeing you're in an open field and you see this just big old black object walking out. Oh, dang, that's a Sasquatch. But as you're in these woods, in this foliage, you see something move. The next thing you can't see nothing. Just like you were just saying, they stand still. Then that dark mass you seen in the open field gets into that foliage and you can't see them no more.
Right.
Is that a possibility? Is that documentary with Mark Zasky putting out, is that accurate?
When it comes to the way the hair blends in, yes.
Yeah. And that's what I thought, because I've seen some pictures where, especially on that documentary, where they picked out a Sasquatch and you're like at the TV, like, what are they looking at? And then once they zoom in and clear the pixelation, you can see the face and it's actually green like the foliage. You're like, dude, how did they pick that out? How did they pick that out? And it just goes back to what you say. They had to train their eye. They had to train their eye to see that thing in that foliage. That makes a lot of sense. But
the thing of it is, a lot of guys, when they go out and they get pictures of, and I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Scott Carpenter. I don't care who it is. If you go out and you take pictures of places you think that you see, of Bigfoot, and you take that picture and you zoom in onto an area.
Mm-hmm.
The pixelation from the digital cameras that we have today will blur enough to where you can see a face.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you've taken a small pixel or 10 pixels or 12 pixels of that picture and made it so big that it looks like a Bigfoot's face.
Right.
But the problem is, you got to remember, those 10 or 12 pixels are this big.
Right.
They're half as wide as a dollar bill and 2 or 3 inches wide and 2 or 3 inches tall. Well, that's not a Bigfoot. And a lot of people that I see on YouTube and places like that, they say they got a picture of a Bigfoot. They've done that to the picture to where it makes it look like, and it's called paranoia.
Right.
And a lot of pictures you see on the internet are paranoia because it's something I got a picture of a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't. What you got was a picture of some leaves that had shading because of the way they were leaning or laying or hanging off the tree. And you took a 3x3 square and made it into the size of a Bigfoot head, which is this big, from my hand to my other hand. And you can't take a 3x3 area and say that's a Bigfoot's face because it doesn't fit. It might be a nose or it might be an eye socket that you think you got a picture of a Bigfoot, but that 3x3 area, that's the size of a Bigfoot's head. You got the nose, a 3x3 would be the nose area or an eye socket.
Right.
Or it could be, some of the hair on the side of its neck and its head, but that's not a Bigfoot's face. A Bigfoot face, you got to figure a 12-inch by 12-inch area because their heads are not little. Like, take me, for instance. I got a big head for a human being. Stop it, KG. He's over here giving me a rough time. But if you took my face and put it in foliage and I went full camo, there was no white showing, none of my goatee or my mustache or none of that was showing, and you took a picture of my face and took a 3x3 section out of it and then bring it out, yeah, you're going to see something that you want to see.
Right.
But in actuality, it's a 3x3 area,
3x3,
and that don't fit a Bigfoot. Don't fit a dogman.
No.
There ain't a cryptid out there that's little.
No, not at all.
And, I'm not saying that there's And I've heard of what they call in Ireland the little people and so on and so forth. Yeah, those things may be there. I don't know. I don't live in Ireland. So those things can be there because they are cryptid, because we don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they may take up a 6-inch area altogether. But when it comes to a Bigfoot, if you have to take that picture and expand it out, you're taking a very small area that is, you know, the size of two 50-cent pieces or three 50-cent pieces sitting together and made it stretched out to where it looks like it's a Bigfoot head. It don't
Right.
work that way.
No,
When you see a
absolutely not.
Bigfoot in real life and you see him in the wild and you see him not running or they're just standing there looking at you from behind a brush pile or something, or they're squatted down, look how big that head is. Uh, it's not a 3x3 section.
No, no.
So, you know, whenever you take and expand a picture, a digital picture, you're expanding a very small area to get a Bigfoot face. And that's not how it works, people. You have to be able to tell right off the bat by looking at the whole picture, there's a Bigfoot face because it's just that prominent in the picture.
Right. I actually back in August, matter of fact, when B Moss and I interviewed Scott Carpenter, I asked him a question about the cloaking, about these animals potentially being green in the foliage, and you know what he told me was a little baffling because I would have never expected this, and this is out of a 4K camera. He says he said he did a test on this to prove it. If you get a 4K camera and you get, say, 30 yards, 35 yards, something of the sort, and you go stand next to that foliage, if you zoom in with that 4K camera, something happens with the color and the pixelation, and it'll cause the colors of like maybe your shirt or whatever to turn like it's almost blending in with the foliage, like it'll turn green or hues of yellow. And I thought, like, good night. That just throws a monkey wrench in everybody's research right there, especially you're using a 4K camera, because if you're getting stuff at 30, or if you go at 35 yards and you're zooming like that, then you get something at, say, 75 yards or 80 yards, and you zoom in, then that right there is just proving that maybe 80-90% is pareidolia.
Think about this. Back when I first started doing Bigfoot, you know, it's been 30 years. Back when I started, you know, wanting to get pictures of one, back then you had those one-step Polaroid cameras where you push a picture and a film comes out and then it develops in front of you.
Right.
You know, I had pictures of Bigfoot standing in an open forest, standing there out from a tree, and it come out and it looked exactly like what I saw. Those cameras don't have pixelation.
Right.
And when you go to a digital camera, I don't care how good it is, it has digits in it that can be expanded out. And once you expand those digits out, everything changes. And Scott did it right. I mean, he tested it on himself. He tested that camera, that 4K camera. You know, it's supposed to be one of the greatest things that man's invented for taking pictures. It's meant for taking a full picture, not taking a small section and spreading it out. And once that happens, everything changes in the camera because now it has to adapt to something else. And they're smart cameras, but the thing of it is that camera is limited to a certain amount. And that's why I say and I don't know how you feel about Carrie with Bigfoot Odyssey, what they did down in Florida. my personal opinion is when the man said that, well, you know, you have to get pictures of supposed Bigfoot faces, and he tells you they had to, you know, they had to look through these pictures really hard and blow them up and everything. I'm sorry, but if he would come to me and ask me what I thought about the pictures, I would tell him to stop hoaxing because that's not a Bigfoot. And that's my personal opinion of doing this for 30 years and getting pictures of Bigfoot before. And if it wouldn't have been for getting divorced and moving to, you know, moving to Ohio and then moving back home to West Virginia, I would still have them pictures.
Right.
And have the castings and all that stuff that I had of Bigfoot footprints, 12, you know, anywhere from 12 inches all the way up to 24 inches castings. All that stuff, I got sick and tired of every time I would take and show somebody one, show them a casting or show them a picture of an actual Bigfoot standing in a forest. And I'm looking at you going, well, you know, your buddy did this. And after hearing that for so many years, you just give up.
Yeah.
Because you just cannot get nobody to believe it until one's standing 10 feet in front of them and they're standing there looking at them like they're dinner.
Exactly.
That's when they believe it.
Exactly. And that was a point I tried to make last week, you know, people saying that, you know, and this right here, there was a guy a few months ago, before I was supposed to go to Kentucky, and this was right after the Scott Carpenter interview. And when we talked to Scott, you know, he said, just like you, not all these creatures are friendly. They will harm you. Some will have ill intent. Some will see you as a menu item. And the guy, I guess, just has so much good luck. And no, everybody, it's not Greg Yost. The guy has such good luck with Bigfoot. He's gifting them, and you know they're friendly. And I tried to tell him, man, it's just not like that everywhere. Not every one of these creatures is friendly.
When it comes to gifting a Bigfoot, you're putting your life on the line.
Exactly.
And the reason I say that is I have had to go to too many people's homes. In 30 years, I've probably went to help. And most people that I've helped over that period of time, when I went from investigating them into finally figuring out that these things are not nice, they will harm you.
Absolutely.
And going to somebody's home, get to their home and go, okay, what did you do to upset those Bigfoot? And hearing them go, I didn't do anything. And then look at them and go, hey, you know, are you putting apples? Are you putting oranges out? Are you putting, you know, some kind of a fruit or nuts or something of that nature out for game animals? Well, yeah. Okay, did you stop it? Yeah. Okay, that's what you did.
Yep.
You gifted that Bigfoot. You didn't know it, and it's no fault of your own. You know, you thought you were feeding the deer or the turkey or whatever to get them to come to your yard. But when that happens, and you gift these creatures, and something happens that you can't do it for 2 weeks, you take off and go on a 2-week cruise, and there's nobody, and you don't tell somebody to go out there and, you know, once a week or twice a week, whatever you were doing, to put this stuff out. What happens is they act like 2-year-old children that you just reach over, grab that favorite toy and went, it's mine now, you don't get it back.
Yeah.
If you got grandchildren or you got children that are 2 years old and you've done that to them, The temper tantrum that child throws, times it by 100, and something that stands 8 foot tall, 9 foot tall, and weighs 900 to 1,000 pounds. Them throwing that temper tantrum times 100 is what you're going to deal with.
Yeah.
When you do that, they get mad. They don't get unmad until one of two things happens. You either run them off or they turn you into a meal. They don't forget.
Right. Right. They're yeah, absolutely. They're smart creatures. They're not going to forget. That's part of the reason why. And I talked to Scott Pace one day, told him, man, I had deer at my feeder. Then all of a sudden they disappeared. And, it happens like that in spurts. They just all of a sudden they disappear. Then here come the hogs moving in. And then 3-4 days later, then the hogs are gone. Nothing comes around. And I kind of have an idea what's going on. But, Scott Pace told me, hey, yeah, them deer love apples. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's a good idea. And then after I got off the phone with him, I snapped. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do that because them things are going to smell them apples or see them laying out there and they're going to think I'm gifting them. And if I stop doing it, then they're going to start causing havoc all around the property. Well, and,
you might go out there for a late season hunt to go out and climb in a tree stand one last time, last day of bow season.
Mm-hmm.
Or to go out there and climb in a tree stand with your son or your nephew or your cousin and let them shoot a doe. It's the last day of doe season, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't put any food out for 2-3 weeks. And you go out there and put food out and, you throw in some apples or you throw in something sweet.
Yep.
To make the deer smell it and come back to
right.
it. And these Bigfoot are going to be pretty well ticked off at you. And you got this little kid in a tree stand or in a blind,
mm-hmm.
and this Bigfoot comes up and just tears the living daylights out of your feeder.
Yep.
That kid's not going to know not to talk, not to speak. That kid's going to be crying, wanting to go home to mommy. And what's going to happen is that Bigfoot's going to hear that noise and it's going to come and investigate. And then you're going to have to either A, kill that Bigfoot, or B, that Bigfoot's going to rip you apart because it's going to smell your scent on the feeder.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take it out on you. And then this kid is stuck out in the wild with your body parts strewn everywhere, covered in blood. And, that kid's traumatized for the rest of his life.
Yep.
If the Bigfoot don't take him,
with him.
And So you never want to, if all of a sudden your deer stop coming in, or the hogs don't come in no more, or turkeys don't come in, it's because there's a predator there that is targeting that feeder and using that feeder
to their advantage. Yeah.
And when that happens, you want to leave it alone.
Yep.
You don't want to put anything else out.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give it 6 months, 8 months. Next fall, next late summer, when you start feeding again, you get the deer to come in there, during daylight.
Yeah. And that's the only thing I've really done is put out corn and protein in the feeder. And every now and then I'll get that little small bag of what's it called? Deer cane. And I just mix it in that entire batch. I mean, my feeder will hold like 10 bags of corn and I'll just mix it in, but I won't throw nothing physical like apple, fruit, any kind of meat out there, anything. Because I know that I got something out there and I don't want it to think I'm gifting it because for that particular reason, because I've heard once you make them mad, it's
not pretty.
Yeah. And it gets worse as time goes on. So yeah, I try to stay away from that. I'm glad when I talked to Scott, I actually caught myself after I got off the phone because I was like, all right, Lord, I'm fixing to go to the store and get some apple. Like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Do not do that. Do not do that. And that's
Because, you know, even when you plant, you know, a field of turnips or winter wheat or something of that nature deer love to eat, you got to remember Bigfoot likes it too.
Mhm.
They eat everything that we can eat, and we can eat everything like that. If you plant something, you know, rhubarb, or you plant turnips, or you plant winter alfalfa, timothy, and stuff like that, us humans can eat that and live off of it.
Mhm.
Bigfoot can too.
Right.
So it's not as much of a problem if you plant a big food plot. But when you got just a feeder out there and you supply it, you know, you start putting stuff in August to draw the deer into that area and get them to come in and stay there. Now you're drawing in the things that's hunting the whitetails or the mule deer or the elk or whatever
Mhm.
you're getting ready to hunt. You got the problem of drawing in those super predators, and those super predators can and do throw hissy fits,
Yeah.
and it's never pretty. It's always a bad thing.
Yeah. And that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. It's flipping cars or tearing up property to the fullest extent that they can, and it gets pretty bad. It's pretty
Well,
bad.
how would you like to be in a tree stand 18 feet up in a ladder stand? And because you're there in that ladder stand, the Bigfoot's going to the feeder, and it goes over to grab food out of the feeder, and it hears you, turns around, sees you, and then comes on and rips the tree stand out from underneath of you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's happened.
Yeah. And
So
18
you
foot
got to
up's
be
not,
careful.
yeah, 18 foot up's not a
It's not a
small
joke.
distance. Yeah. Yeah, I've actually heard hunters breaking their legs at 12 feet. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a long ways up. Um,
yeah,
I know you've also told me that how do I say it? Over in your part of the country, they have certain type of people that make a liquid we like to drink. Of course, you know,
yeah.
the shine. Um, I remember you telling me that these Bigfoot are attracted to the, is it called mash?
Mash.
Mash?
It's got a
Yeah,
sweet smell to it.
right. And I remember you telling me an account of someone having a Bigfoot issue, and
Hmm.
you went there and found was it a still on the back of the property,
Yeah,
or yeah? Can you give us a little taste of that story? That was
yeah.
actually a pretty interesting one. That I when you told me that, I really liked that one.
What happened was a guy that owned the property. He was having issues with uh, stuff getting destroyed on the backside of his property.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a old barn on the backside of his property. Well, what he didn't tell nobody, he didn't tell me, was that he was a moonshiner, and three or four of his buddies was helping him with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back there and found the steel, and I'm like, okay, I got an idea. And I went back to him that afternoon, and long before it got dark, and I said, look, I said, I'll sound your steel. Don't lie to me. Where are you dumping your match? And he's like, well, I'll show you. So we went back there and found 6 or 7 different sets of prints of Bigfoot right around that mash. And what it was, they were coming into that mash, getting them handfuls of that mash and eating it. And it still has alcohol in it. And the problem is, a Bigfoot that gets drunk ain't a pretty sight. It's like having you go into a bar and some guy, big burly guy, gets sloshed, and all of a sudden he thinks you're looking at his girlfriend.
Right.
That's never a good situation.
No.
And a Bigfoot, you don't have to look. And when that happens, he can be very aggressive. And when they're drunk, they don't know their strength. It's just like us. When we get drunk, if a human being gets drunk, they don't know what they're going to do because their brain's not functioning at 100% because they're inebriated and their brain don't work as fast. And the Bigfoot's the same way. So that situation was very scary for me, but we worked it out to where he was putting was still putting the mash out to where he normally put it, and they were able to go into it, but we worked it out to where they weren't going into that barn and getting the mash right out of the steel and everything else. And shortly thereafter, he quit doing it because he was warned that if he didn't shut it down, he was going to be in trouble. And once he shut it down, those Bigfoot left. And that happened in Ohio. So and anybody that knows anything about Ohio, about the Bigfoot in Ohio, knows that it's known for the grass man. It was the grass man that was getting into steel and the mash.
Wow.
And they got a kicker anyway.
Yeah, they don't play well with humans. Yeah.
They don't play well with their own kind. They get fights all the time.
Yeah. Definitely an aggressive Bigfoot. Definitely an aggressive Bigfoot. Yeah, that was definitely an encounter that I think everybody needed to hear because it, you just, and I'll say this, and it's not to bash anybody that does. I mean, like I said, I'm not anybody's daddy here except my kids in the other room, but to me, gifting is not a good idea because of what can happen once you stop. And I've heard of different accounts, and there are a few accounts of like Greg Yost. I don't know which type of Bigfoot he has around his property, but he has a good association with them. Of what he calls the forest people. He does gift them, but he's never really had nothing ill happen.
But he continuously does it.
He continuously does it. He continue, and they gift him back as well, from what I've heard.
Right.
Talking with Greg, that they gift him back, but he continuously does it. I guess he keeps that good association, knowing that if he was to stop, that potentially could happen, and them, turn 180, get mad, and then something bad happening. Because he has told us where he's actually had him come into his house. So
yeah,
that could.
LT, can I take about 5 minutes real quick?
Yeah.
I'll be right back. It won't take me long.
All right.
Something I got to take care of.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, buddy.
We'll be right here. Yeah, let's see. Something you definitely didn't want to miss tonight, y'all. Oldbear is full of knowledge. So what I'm going to do right now, since Oldbear's taking a break, I'm going to play something for y'all. And this was off my property. Let's see. And this is a vocalization. It's 2 vocalizations. The first one I got off my night vision scope about 30 minutes before dark. I caught a vocalization at the very beginning, first, maybe the second of the video. You may have to turn it up a little bit. And it's about 3-4 seconds long. And then it's going to play it again, but it's going to play it at 3/4 speed. And then I caught another vocalization off my trail camera. I'm going to play that one. And then right after that, it's going to play again at half speed. So check these out, see what y'all think. And I'm going to play it now. So what y'all think about those? Put it in the comments. Get y'all's opinion. I can't honestly tell you what it is, but definitely sounds something different. Steve Riley said he heard it. Yeah, this is like the 7th or 8th time you've heard those videos, Steve. Y'all get to see them first before everybody else. But the one off the trail camera sounded a little bit different. I don't know what it was. I've heard it was a fox. Didn't sound like a fox. From what I've researched, it could be wrong. The first one definitely sounded something different. Bear, I just played them the vocalizations that I had caught off my property. I'll go ahead and I'll replay it for you. The first one is off my night vision scope. It'll show the first one at regular speed. The second, it'll show it again at 3/4 speed. And then I got one off my trail camera at regular speed. And then the second one's at half speed. So I'm going to play those for you, see what you think. And so that's what I got back. The first one was September. The trail cameras in October. The first one, it was off in the distance. I never heard it with my ears. It could have been because I was fumbling around with the scope, but when I reviewed the footage, that's when I noticed it. That entire video is 10 minutes long, and within that 10 minutes, like I told you earlier, I caught them owls sounding off, and then you could hear like chatter. Them cicadas were so loud you could faintly hear it, but that was the same day I caught that chatter. And that first vocalization, I've heard it out there before. I actually caught it on an earlier investigation back in April at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. And I don't know.
Well, in my personal opinion, you bought a day call from a Bigfoot, the first one. The second one sounded an awful lot like a fox.
Did it? Yeah,
Yes.
see, and that's what I've been told, that it sounded like a fox. And I've researched the fox sounds, couldn't come up with anything definitive, but yeah, if you tell me that's a fox,
Well,
that's a fox.
it's a short bark that a fox does. Even the red fox, the silver fox, and the gray fox, they all make the same type of sounds.
Right.
And if there's a mate, if they are with their mate, they'll do that so they'll know where each other one of them is in the second clip. But the first clip, I've heard Bigfoot do that before, and it's a call that, hey, it's daylight, it's not time to move yet. They're warning a Bigfoot that may have got up and walked out, and telling it to go back in hiding.
Well, there you go, everybody. The man himself. That's what he says. That's what I'm going to believe. Just like the second one, he says it's a fox. I'm gonna believe it's a fox. I'm not going to go against all of them years of knowledge, especially if he's been in the trenches with them. So, most definitely, thank you for listening to that, Bear. I appreciate that, man. That's definitely a good insight. Now I know for sure that first one is definitely something of cryptid nature.
Yeah.
The last 2 weeks, so I interviewed Scott Pace. Me and him did a show, and Scott's an interesting guy. He's a real good friend of mine. We talk a lot, and he was telling me some encounters of his where he's had these creatures, both Bigfoot and Dogman, speak to him telepathically. What kind of information can you give us on that?
Well, when it comes to telepathy, um, I don't know how high a Bigfoot's brain functions. You know, the human brain that we have, we use approximately 10-15% of our capacity in our brain at all, during our daily work and living and breathing and eating and all this stuff. We only use 10 or 15% of our brain capacity. When it comes to a Bigfoot, I have never, ever had a regular Bigfoot tell me I need to leave or tell me that I need to go to this area or go to this or they're going to do this to me. Uh, there's only been one time in 30 years that I've ever got that I felt that I was told that I needed to leave. And that was when I was dealing with Janoskwa. And Janoskwa are so violent and so, um, I mean, just plain simply mean that it could have been not the Bigfoot telling me that. It could have been a demonic entity that may have at that moment possessed that Bigfoot. And that's goes in line with what happened to Mark um, down there in his research area whenever they really messed his mind up.
Yeah.
I believe it was the demon that took over that physical body and was telling Mark all that stuff. And the only time I ever had it happen was when I was in close proximity to a Janoskwa. And, I didn't hear a voice, but I just felt in my own brain that maybe I need to leave.
Right.
Maybe I need to leave this one alone. But of course, it didn't let me leave it alone. It tried to force the issue, and it found out that I'm not an easy mark, or at least at that time I wasn't.
Right.
Nowadays, being 53 years old, I'm a lot slower than what I was when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I might be a lot easier nowadays, but I'm a lot smarter. I don't work as hard as I used to. I work a lot smarter nowadays. I don't take the chances like I used to back then.
Right. Right. Yeah, you hear all these people that have these encounters where they said these creatures have spoken to them telepathically. Scott Pace gave me a rundown of his. He actually, from what he told me, and I think this is the way it went down, he was hunting.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
know Scott.
yeah, he's in your Discord group with the rest of us.
Right.
And yeah, he had told me this and said that there was a Bigfoot and a dog man
Mm-hmm.
there at the same time. The dog man spoke to him first because he raised his rifle to look to see what it was. And it told him if he didn't put the rifle down, he's going to go over there to his stand, tear it up, pull him out, and do the inevitable. And he said right after that, the Bigfoot was speaking to the dog man. I think I have that right. Was speaking to the dog man, telling him, no, you're not going to do nothing to him. And then he said it spoke to him saying, you might want to go ahead and exit and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of anyone else saying anything like that of the sort? Because I know Scott's a 100% guy. He's not gonna make any of this up. He's a born again Christian. If he's a good friend of mine, if he says it happened, I believe him. I definitely
Well,
believe him.
I believe that happened to him. I
Yeah.
mean, I believe that something either spoke to him, whether it could have been, as a Christian, the Holy Spirit speaks to us
Mm-hmm.
and warns us of things.
Right.
Or it could have been something that was demonic that was in, and personally, I don't think he was facing a werewolf. He was a a lot bigger version of a dog man. And they're known to be like the Janoskwa and the Gugway. They can be easily possessed by a demon of some type and be used in that type of situation like that. It could have been, just something of that nature that happened to him. And that's not a good situation to be in.
Right.
But if Scott says he was spoken to, I take his
Oh.
word for it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I talked to Scott quite a bit, like you, and we're very good friends, and we're brothers in Christ. And I don't doubt the man's word for it. But when it comes to hearing people talk about stuff like that, in 30 plus years, there may have been one or two people that said that they were spoken to. But it seems here in the past 10 years, these cryptids are starting to come to the forefront more than they ever have been.
Yes.
And we've had the internet since the late 80s, early 90s. And, it's become a lot easier to get on the internet and say, type in the encounter that you have, and it gets spread around the world.
Right.
And something like that, I only have, maybe one or two people that's ever told me that in 30 years. Scott being the third.
Right.
And then hearing Mark's account was the fourth. So 4 times in 30 years, and never having it happen to me before. Other than, me feeling I needed to leave, or something telling me I needed, not actually hearing a voice, but hearing my own mind going, this one you need to leave alone.
Right.
So it's starting to happen more, and it's making me start to think that these aggressive types of creatures, cryptids that are out there, are being used in ways that us as humans don't understand, unless you have a spiritual side in it, and then through your spiritual side that it's something demonic that is taking over these creatures. And that brings up the point of, and yes, I want to let your viewers know I am an ordained minister. And it brings up the point in the Holy Bible that it says the beasts of the field in the last days will come up against man. And I believe these are the creatures that will be coming up against us. These cryptids that are out there, dog men, Bigfoot, lizard men, and they're innumerable from all over the world.
Yeah. And, with the subject of being spoke to telepathically also brought up the subject of portals. And I know I asked you this a while back about the whole going in and out of portals. A lot of people last week were saying, why do I always get pictures of like a head and like an arm and part of the body, but nothing else? Or is it halfway in a portal, halfway out?
Right.
From what you and I talked about, and I believe it 100%, because one, I've never experienced the portal thing. Okay. I know Scott said that he has seen a portal, but I don't think he's seen anything go in or come out of it. But this goes back to what you and I talked about way back, is that, do you believe these creatures are flesh and blood? And I already know the answer to this, y'all. I can tell you now his answer is going to be the same as mine last week, but just to hear the man tell y'all, that way, you're not just hearing it from me every week, because I do speak highly about you all the time, Bear, because, I mean, you have a lot of knowledge. But do you believe these creatures are flesh and blood?
Well, emphatically, I will tell you this. They are flesh and blood. They feel pain just like we do. They can get injured just like we do. They can be aggressive like us. And therefore, all those things put together, they are flesh and blood creatures, and have been since their beginning on this earth. There's nothing special about them that they can walk in and out of a portal. And I know people are going to jump all over that, but I dare anyone that says that these creatures are more than flesh and blood, come and show me. Show me one in a video walking into a portal, and I'll show you what you were supposed to see because of a demonic entity that wanted you to see it. And that's how you get people saying that they've seen these shimmering, portals. And that is a demon trying to enter into this world. It has nothing to do with a Bigfoot. Bigfoot's flesh and blood. Even the Gudway or Janoskwa, and the human type 3s and the Cro-Magnon type 2s and the gorilla or monkey type 1s, never have I seen any of them walk into a portal. The only thing that I can come up with when it comes to portals is something demonic coming out of the pits of hell.
Exactly.
And if they see a Bigfoot going into a portal, it's what they're supposed to see, what the demons tell them to see.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens to you, go to your local priest or go to a minister or somebody and have that demon exiled away from you. That's all I can tell you.
That makes a lot of sense. I may have to make a phone call to Scott Pace after we get done. But
well, I'll have him on Discord tonight if we have a Discord tonight. I don't know when we're going to get started, but we'll try to have one.
I'll definitely be there. We got B Moss is in here. She's been in here, but she asked her first question. I'm surprised. She's usually pumped full of them.
She's usually quiet though. Whenever.
yeah. She's
How
a
you
little
doing,
shy.
Miss Moss?
She's a little shy, but she wanted to know: are Gugway a hybrid of other cryptids?
Gudway are not a hybrid of another cryptid. They are a type of Bigfoot that has human features. They are a Bigfoot that has chosen to eat mankind. They have developed a taste for our flesh, and they will take us any chance that they get. As long as they're not going to be harmed, if you got a gun and you can deter that Bigfoot by putting a large caliber round into that Bigfoot in a place where it's going to hurt it. And shooting one in the chest is the dumbest thing I've ever seen anyone ever try. Because their chest is 5 or 6 inches of muscle on the outside, and then you got heavy bone. It's like shooting a rhino in the foot, and the rhino looking at you going, "Oh, you just had a bad day."
Right.
That's something when it comes to a Gudway. They're bigger than a normal Bigfoot, and they're more muscular. Their bone structure is the same, and they just have a taste for human meat.
The Gugways, I've heard encounters and reports of them looking like a baboon type creature. How accurate is that? Because I've seen a picture of the Beast of Seven Shoots, and and from the head it looks just like a baboon.
Right. They may have fangs that, canines that stick out from the top, or they may come out of the bottom. And they may have, through fights and battles they've been in, with other Bigfoot, or whatever's caused them, their face gets distorted.
Right.
They can be injured just like we can. In the movie Rocky, Rocky Balboa's eye was all swollen shut, and
Mhm.
And then after the swelling went down, he had all the bags that sagged down across his face. And they do have distorted looks because of the constant fighting that those creatures do. And, it does make them look more apish than it does human. But they
Right.
still have the human cheekbones, human nose.
Right.
That human nose can be split just like ours can. So,
Right.
they do look like an ape, but they're more or less going to have fangs, and that's a good way to know that they're a dugway.
Absolutely. And for those of y'all out there that have never seen a picture of the Beast of Seven Shoots, I got a picture here, and this is I think the only existing picture of that creature. And the Beast of Seven Shoots is, I want to say, near Canada, near, I think, Quebec, maybe. I might be mistaken. But this is the only picture of that creature. And this was taken at, I want to say a few hundred yards, if not more. But that's a zoomed in picture. Of course, you can tell it's blurry pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's gonna complain about that, but it definitely has the baboon features on it. It's definitely upright. Definitely looks pretty large, and I don't know what's in his left arm, but it's got dinner.
Yeah.
It definitely got dinner. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, B. You know, them gugways are nothing nice. It's type 4 classified. That's bears type 4, and type 5 are the Genosqua.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the mean ones. Also, meat eaters. Stay away from them, man. They're not friendly. Gugways are not friendly. Just if you run into any kind of Bigfoot, like Bear said, just leave it alone. If you can get out of there, just get out. Best thing you can do, because you make one mad, you could be on the menu.
Yeah,
Uh,
even your type ones, twos, and threes will eat you if you make them mad.
right, right. Steve Riley, he's from Kentucky. He's I think over by the Daniel Boone somewhere, as a matter of fact, I think. This is what he's got to ask. What about a sheep squatch?
We have them here in Boone County, West Virginia. I did one investigation in near the town of Man, West Virginia, which is in Boone County. And the buddy of mine that went with me, he refuses to go back over there after we ran into that creature. They have cloven hoofs for feet. They don't have the typical Bigfoot feet. They're the size of a regular Bigfoot, and their hands look like, Spot.
Right.
Um, and they have a snout like a sheep does. Um, they're not a special type of Bigfoot. Well, I take that back. They are a special type of Bigfoot because they are very, very, very rare. But they are super aggressive. They will chase you down to run you out of the woods, and I don't mean they won't parallel you. They'll run right behind you to run you to get you out of there. Running into one of them is not a good thing, and so uh, the best thing I can tell you about a sheep squatch is you run into one, leave. I did. Uh, I know when I'm licked, I'll get up and get out of there. I don't take that kind of a chance. They just have a
Right.
temperament that you don't need to be dealing with.
Yeah, they sound pretty aggressive. We got a few questions up. I'm gonna go ahead and get these up. I don't know who this is that came in as Facebook user. Why do they snap trees?
It is a marker. Either it's a marker to food, water, or shelter. The three main things they need to survive. Uh, it's a way for the alpha male to designate where things are at in his territory. And that way, if the females are going from where they've laid up all day long and they're going down to get water, or they're going to go dig grubs or plant uh, plants for medicinal purposes, or for wild onions, stuff like that. Uh, Coming back through the woods when it's dark, and if it's a dark night, which they're more active on a dark night than they are on a full moon, um, they can see very well at night. They have a different structure in their eyes, and they can see better at night than we can.
Right.
But those markers let them know where they need to turn to go back to their sleeping area, or they need to go down and get water this way, or they got to go get the medicine plants this way, like ginseng and stuff like that. They use those as markers. The alpha male makes them and designates the areas where the females will go to get things, and also for uh, the other males, the beta males in the clan, to go hunting where the best hunting is. It's a marker, just like your tree bows. They're
Right.
all markers.
Yeah, I've ran into a few of those on my property. Matter of fact, I ran into one. Was it about a week, at most week and a half ago?
Mm-hmm.
I was filming with my 4K camera, and over where I lost that deer, where I couldn't find that doe, the creek's right there. There was a structure bent over the entire creek. So I got
probably marked a crossing for them.
Yeah, I got the picture. I'll send it to you probably tomorrow. Let you take a look at it.
Okay.
But yeah, I just found that the other day, and I was like, that wasn't there the other day. So I know it's new, but I'll definitely send that to you. We got Miss Moss again. Let's see, and she wants to know what you think these cryptids are.
Well, Bettina, we've had this discussion before, but when it comes to these cryptids like Bigfoot, in my personal opinion, through a lot of research and a lot of reading a lot of scripture and reading the Holy Bible through and reading the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch explains a lot of things that are in this world at this time. And when it comes to a Bigfoot, I believe they are what were called by the children of Israel the Nephilim. The Nephilim was the same thing as Goliath. Now, the Nephilim came after the flood, and that's where a lot of people get it wrong. The red-haired giants were before the flood, and the flood was designed to rid the earth of all of mankind and these giants that were walking the face of the earth because they were pure evil at the time. And that's why Noah and his family were put in the ark, because they followed after God. And when it comes to the Nephilim, it is a conglomerate of the fallen angel and human women, along with animal type DNA, that the fallen angels that were mating with women were also mating with other species on the earth. So in basic things, they were cross-pollinating. And that's how Goliath became to be. And Goliath had 4 brothers that were just like him, actually bigger than Goliath. Goliath was reported to be over 9 foot tall. His brothers were taller than him, bigger than he was. And they walked this earth. And after Goliath was defeated and his 4 brothers were killed by King David, the rest of the Nephilim that were in all the tribes of the world, except for the children of Israel, were cast out into the wilderness. And if you take a human being today and put him out in the wilderness for a year and don't let him have a razor, uh, humans revert back to uh, earlier times when we were walking this earth, and we didn't have cars, didn't have planes and trains, and an electric razor that you use every 2 or 3 days. We didn't have all this stuff. Your hair grows longer. Your facial hair covers your face. Your hairs on your body grow longer to help protect you from the cold, the wind, the rain, snow, all those temperature fluctuations in the world. And that's what happened. Was they have an understanding of how mankind is, and they have an understanding of that's why their lives are structured, because most of the Nephilim in the world were in military, because they were such of great size and strength. They were put in the militaries of the tribes that were on the earth at the time. And once they got cast out, they kept all that, retained all that knowledge that they had. And they've learned over the years, over the millennium, uh, since they were cast out. And they watch us constantly and watch what we do. And they learn more from us by watching us than they do by just living their lives in the wild. So, yeah, they're military structured. They are Nephilim, in my estimation. And dealing with these creatures, they are very knowledgeable. They can understand English. They can understand the languages of this world. In the countries that they're in, we don't know if they're in Great Britain or France or Germany, but anywhere there's a large forested area they can hide in, they're going to be there. And they're very adept at hiding from us. So they are the Nephilim that were the same as Goliath in the Old Testament of the Holy Bible.
Awesome. I got another question, and this one seems like a pretty good one. On the biblical side, would you consider Dogman or Bigfoot chimera? And that's from Lonnie Ramey.
No, actually, I have heard of a few reports of chimera in the Middle East. If you look back at when Egypt was a major power in the world, you look at their gods, they had dog heads. And those creatures were part human, mostly human bodies, but with a type of a dog face and dog head, had pointed ears and everything. And the reason they look like they do now, look more dog-like than they do human, is because at the time that they were in Egypt, they started devouring mankind. You cannot bring the wrath of God upon you and cause destruction of mankind or of men and women and children and not face the wrath of God. Now they look more like a dog that walks on 2 legs, but they still have the typical bend in their legs of a dog. And that is where you get the dog men of today and the werewolves of today. It's because they were cursed by God for destroying his creation.
Bear, are you familiar with Jeff Nadolny?
Nadolny? Yeah.
Okay, so this is B's next question. He has a gentleman that come on there before called. He goes by the name of Victor.
Yeah.
She wanted to know what do you think about Victor from Jeff's show? We had an interesting discussion about this last week, and it didn't go long. It didn't go long,
Yeah.
but she wanted to know what you think about Victor.
Well, when it comes to Victor, from what I know from friends and through my own knowing, uh, my own learning of the way government is set up, you don't live long and you don't talk very as long as he's been talking, uh, telling secrets that the government keeps. Uh, Government knows about these cryptids. We all know that because there's kill teams that are designed to go out and deal with these Bigfoot that harm humans. And they also deal with dog men or any other cryptid that comes up and harms a human being, kills them, eats them, whatever. You don't open your mouth if you're on one of those teams and expect to live long. You soon um, die in a helicopter crash or plane crash, or you have a mishap on a military base or military installation. Something happens to you to keep your mouth shut. So that's the thing. When it comes to Victor, if he was who he says he is, that man has been dead 30 times over. You just don't talk when it comes to government secrets.
No,
And
not
cryptids are a secret that government keeps.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely. And I've heard of people who have talked who were a part of government association having their lives ruined, even civilians having their lives ruined because they've accidentally let out too much information, told the wrong person, or told you not to talk about it, or we will ruin your life. It's just I've heard so many accounts of that, and it's just
Well, I've been threatened too, Lieutenant. I've been told because of my Bigfoot channel, because I don't pull no punches, I don't lie about it. I don't. When someone sends me an account of a Bigfoot coming to their home or doing something to them, or they seeing it and it chasing them through the woods, I don't pull punches. I don't. I don't add to it. I don't take away from it. Um, I give the full story. I give all the knowledge that people need, but I don't give the person's name because I know at some time in the future or later on, uh, or it could be the very next day,
Mhm.
that they may get a visit from someone in a part of the NSA or Homeland Security or something of that nature saying, "Hey, you need to shut up,"
Yeah,
or you're going to be going up for tax fraud, or you might spend the rest of your life in federal prison. And I've been told by a gentleman that walked up to me in casual dress, um, and been pulled over in a not a rest area, but a DOT check, and been told, "Look, you need to shut your mouth." And it was told to me blatant like that. You
wow,
shut your mouth.
wow, that's crazy. Um, Flat Rock wants to know, hey, is there going to be another Squatch out in 2022?
Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to Wayne and Derek about it. Haven't talked to Cowboy, but if there is, I hope we change the place because and the time that we do it. I would like to see it later in, probably in October. Um, and that's just my personal opinion. October would be better. I'm a fat guy. I get a little hot.
Right?
It's a little warm down there for this fat guy. So anything above 70 degrees is too hot for me. And I'm getting older, and I can't climb those steep mountains like they got the squats. as easily. And there's Bigfoot down there. There's Bigfoot in that area, but they can traverse that terrain a lot better than I can. And we found some, evidence of Bigfoot, even though there was, the campground was full of people. I think on Saturday we had over 40 people there. And for a first year and short notice like that, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And I don't think there was a night that when we had to squatch out, Friday night, Saturday night, that I got to bed before 2 a.m.
Wow.
Talking to people and us going out and looking around and doing howls and other things. And the last night there, Sunday night, I went with Wayne of Manimal Research, and he got to hear a male Bigfoot making a mournful howl for a female. And that Bigfoot came fairly close. When I say fairly, it's not 20 feet away, but it was some, yards between us. But it came close enough to see what we were. And it was pretty exciting for them. I've had that happen before. So, and it was exciting to see Wayne and the other people that were there, their reactions. And it was fun. I got to laugh a little bit because I think Wayne, it got a little too close for his comfort. And, but, everybody has that area that a Bigfoot can get in, and they're all right with it. But once they come too close, then it starts affecting them.
We're gonna take one more question, y'all, and then we're gonna let Bear get to the Discord so we can hop on over there. If you, and I don't know how Discord works. I'm still new to it, but if y'all can find Oldbear's Discord, I suggest getting on it, because Saturday nights they are primo, y'all. They are primo, and I recommend it to anybody out there. If you want to hear what Oldbear has to say, go to his Discord. Go to his Discord. We're going to take one more question, and this is going to be – this is B's question, because she's been bringing this up a lot, and I want to see what you have to say about this. What do you think happened to the 2 people killed in Cott County, Tennessee?
What do I think of what? I'm sorry.
What do you think that happened to the 2 people killed in Cott County, Tennessee?
They got too close. They did something, or they interrupted something they shouldn't have, and got too close. So that's about all I'm going to say about that one. I mean, that one's a touchy subject for a lot of people, and they got too close to a type of cryptid that is not human friendly, and that's about all you can do about that one. I mean, they just got too close, and they interrupted something, and it didn't turn out very good.
I agree. For anybody who wants to join Bear's Discord, get with me on Messenger. I'll try and shoot y'all the link. That way he can go ahead and get over there and get started. Oldbear, man, thanks for coming on again. It was an absolute pleasure getting all that knowledge and even more. Everybody, like I told y'all, when Bear comes on, he delivers. You'll leave with more answers and questions. I promise you. We'll absolutely do this again. We'll wait till sometime next year, and we'll get Oldbear on again. Let him, get his encounters in and whatnot. And if he comes up with new information, I'm sure he'll share it with us. But Bear, we'll let you get to the Discord. I'm fixing to grab a drink and hop on over there. Buddy, it was a pleasure. We'll keep in touch. I got to get a hold of Scott Pace and see if he's going to join in tonight. Hopefully he will. And I will see you over there in just a few. And everybody else, thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all. We'll do another show probably around first or second week of January since the holidays are coming up. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, be safe, and have a happy New Year. This is Lieutenant and Oldbear, y'all, signing off.